to believe that Alicent's offer was genuine.
Are you dumb, stupid, or dumb? Huh?
House of the Dragon Season 3 has a Rhaenyra problem, and honestly I can't tell if it's intentional. This season has turned what used to be a flawed but compelling leader into someone so unbelievably incompetent that I'm starting to question whether the writers actually want us rooting for her anymore, because after episode 3, I genuinely can't imagine wanting this woman anywhere near the Iron Throne.
Just get out of here, you stupid, dumb animal!
There are multiple issues with Season 3, including illogical plot points, changing things from the book with unforeseen consequences, and uneven characterizations across the board. But I think most of this pales in comparison to what they've done to Rhaenyra, whose sheer incompetence makes it easier for me to buy dragons are real than the fact that she's this painfully moronic. To be clear, I'm not asking Rhaenyra to be perfect. A lot of my favorite characters, like Daemon in this show, are incredibly flawed. Luke Skywalker's journey in the original trilogy wouldn't be interesting if he started out perfect from the start. You hear that, Kathleen? But there's a huge difference between a flawed character and an incompetent one, especially when that character is supposed to be leading an entire continent on the throne. A flawed character makes understandable mistakes, but an incompetent character repeatedly makes those same mistakes and leaves the audience wondering, how the hell is anyone following this person?
I don't know.
Ironically, I usually complain about the opposite problem. Modern Hollywood has become obsessed with writing female leads who begin the story already perfect. Rey Palpatine, She-Hulk, Captain Marvel, and many others. So, on paper, Rhaenyra should be exactly what I want. She's allowed to fail, she's allowed to make mistakes, but these mistakes have become so absurd that they're breaking my suspension of disbelief and taking me out of the show entirely. It's fine if Season 3 is trying to portray Rhaenyra as a ruler crumbling under impossible pressure. The problem is that many of her decisions don't just make her flawed, they make her incredibly reckless and stupid.
If you die,
Then you will at last be king.
What? What are you talking about?
So let's run through Rhaenyra's insanely dumb decisions through the first 3 episodes. Let's start off with her decisions regarding the battle at the Gullet. Rhaenyra blindly believes Alicent's word that Vhagar won't be waiting to ambush them. Why? Alicent could easily be lying or simply wrong. There are no guarantees that Aemon won't be waiting there for her, as Alicent still hadn't convinced Aemon to go to Harrenhal. And on that note, there are no concrete details given for Alicent's planned surrender. How exactly is Alicent supposed to facilitate all this? How do they know the Kingsguard will switch sides? Why isn't there any contingency plan if the castle guards remain loyal to Team Green?
Don't ask questions. Just consume product and then get excited for next product.
While we, the audience, see how these things play out, largely through bad writing and plot conveniences, the fact Rhaenyra wouldn't solidify any of these logistics paints her as an absolute buffoon. You're betting your entire war effort on the honesty of your enemy and someone that you've been basically at odds with this entire time.
not a great plan.
And then if that wasn't bad enough, Rhaenyra insists on personally participating in the battle despite everyone around her pointing out the obvious. If she dies, Team Black is cooked.
An armada of ships sailing out of the rising sun from the east.
They have sprung their trap.
I shall go.
You can't be this stupid! You can't!
Jace is widely rumored to be a bastard. If Rhaenyra dies, the realm suddenly has to choose between Aegon, a legitimate Targaryen, and Jace, who lacks the traditional silver-gold Targaryen features and whose legitimacy has always been questioned. Her survival isn't just important, it's the foundation of their entire cause. That's why Jace locking her in her chambers is actually the correct military decision. Yet, Rhaenyra throws a tantrum over being prevented from risking the entire war effort.
How embarrassing.
Real quick, if you're enjoying the video, please consider liking and subscribing. Now back to the video. Then, after Jace dies, Rhaenyra blames his arrogance, even though from what we see, he likely would have succeeded had Rhaena and Sheepstealer not completely fucked up the situation. To be fair, she didn't receive all of this context, but then she says, this wouldn't have happened if I had been there. No, if you had been there, you could have also died in the battle, which would have been exponentially worse for your entire faction. Again, the show treats her desire to fight as admirable when strategically it's completely irrational.
Hey pal, you just blowing from Stupid Town?
Then Rhaenyra announces, I'm going to infiltrate King's Landing, and her small council tells her to not go there because, again, if she's killed, the war is over. Her response? So be it. and she just leaves.
It's a bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see if it pays off for him.
Her allies on the council must really regret backing her at this point. But thankfully, as I alluded to earlier, she has plot armor and everything just magically works. Daemon and Rhaenyra casually stroll into King's Landing, nobody shoots arrows at them, they walk straight into the castle with no backup, no hidden assailants ambush them from the shadows, and the handful of knights that do are easily defeated. They appear surrounded in the throne room, but then the King's Guard suddenly appear and become their allies because the script says so. If all of this bullshit didn't clunkily fall into place, there's a near certainty that she and Daemon would have easily been killed and the war would be over.
I'm beginning to see a pattern here that I'm not so sure if I like.
Even in her execution of Otto, she appears weak. She's visibly shaken in front of the assembled lords. She hesitates, and when she finally swings, she misses multiple times. If she's this emotionally flustered by her sworn enemy who spearheaded the usurpation of her throne, it doesn't reinforce confidence that she's ready to make far tougher decisions as ruler. And after this, episode 3 is basically one long montage of Rhaenyra cracking under pressure, and again, that could actually be compelling. The problem is that several of her decisions aren't simply her making mistakes, they're strategically insane. I understand we're building to her snapping under the pressure and going full fire and blood, but that doesn't mean she needs to be characterized as a ludicrous idiot. The first major blunder is she basically dismantles her own small council because she no longer trusts them. Okay, and who replaces them? Nobody?
You stupid idiot!
Imagine the president firing his entire cabinet during war without having replacements lined up. Even worse, you've now created a group of politically powerful people who know your military plans, know your political weaknesses, and they feel personally betrayed. That's exactly how you lose a war. And on that note, suddenly Rhaenyra is more trusting of Mysaria over Daemon. Mysaria has literally betrayed her cause before. Daemon, for all his flaws, has been her most loyal military ally and partner. I know they changed a lot from the books, but this is maybe the most infuriating because, again, it just paints Rhaenyra in a really bad light. Later on, she refuses Corlys's request to legitimize Adam and Alan because she's uncomfortable with the implications surrounding her own sons being bastards, which is incredibly short-sighted. Corlys is arguably her most valuable ally. He sacrificed more than almost anyone for her cause, and instead of rewarding that loyalty, she alienates him because of her own insecurities. She creates unnecessary friction with the man whose fleet is keeping her war effort alive.
Boy, are you stupid?
I don't think so.
She also antagonizes the wealthy lords and allies of King's Landing at the same time she desperately needs money, food, and political support. A firm ruler can absolutely discipline these nobles, but there's a difference between projecting strength and creating enemies for absolutely no strategic benefit. These are people that were supporting Aemond and Aegon just a few days ago, so why give them any reason to turn against you, especially when you're desperate for money and resources?
That doesn't make sense.
This brings me to the writing team, specifically Sarah Hess, who wrote episodes 2 and 3 and, in my opinion, has royally fucked up this show before. Hess wrote season 1 episode 9, which featured the show's most egregious example of sacrificing narrative internal logic for hype moments and aura. In the episode she wrote, Rhaenys bursts through the dragon pit, killing hundreds of innocent civilians, yet she spares Aegon and the Greens, the very people she's supposedly at war with, and then flies away instead of scorching them alive. This scene is framed as triumphant and empowering, but if you stop and think about it for even 30 seconds, it makes absolutely no sense and is maybe the most cringe scene in the entire series. And as if that wasn't bad enough, I'm starting to see the same pattern again in season 3. While Rhaenyra has been shown to be irresponsible since the first season, the writers seem hellbent on giving her girl power moments even when they coincide with horrific leadership decisions. It's not the fact that she's making mistakes, it's been apparent that she's not necessarily the best leader since the inception of this show. It's that all of this is framed as though Rhaenyra has minimal part to play in her own folly, that somehow she's just a tragic victim victim of circumstance with no agency when really she's the frickin' queen and is in charge of everything. While even in the book she's supposed to appear unready to rule, this is diametrically opposed to the show's subtext that she is still the hero of this story and that the audience should be behind her. There's nothing wrong with portraying Rhaenyra as a flawed or even failing leader. The challenge is maintaining a balance between making her sympathetic and making her appear hopelessly incompetent. Right now, the show feels like it's tipping too far toward the latter, creating a disconnect between what the story is showing us and how it appears to want us to feel about Rhaenyra.
My brain hurts!
We still have 7 episodes left, so there's plenty of time for House of the Dragon Season 3 to turn it all around. Maybe all of this is building towards a larger character arc, and Rhaenyra's poor decisions are meant to show the gradual unraveling of her claim and her leadership. But with each passing week, both I and a growing portion of the fan base are becoming more concerned that the writers aren't in on the joke. It doesn't feel like the show recognizes how much Rhaenyra's decision making is undermining her as a protagonist. Instead of coming across as a tragic, flawed ruler, she's starting to look inexplicably incompetent, and that's making it harder and harder to stay invested in her journey. I want to root for Rhaenyra because she's a complex character, not because the show keeps insisting that I do. If the writers can get back to letting her make believable, calculated decisions, even when they're the wrong ones, she will be far easier to sympathize for. But if these first few episodes are a sign of what's to come, I'm genuinely worried that Season 3 is creating a problem it doesn't even realize it has. And that will be the ultimate death knell for this show. Thank you so much for sticking with the video this long. If you enjoyed, please like and subscribe. My goal is to hit 5K subs, so any help is greatly appreciated. And be sure to leave a comment below. I want to hear your thoughts about the season so far. Do you agree with my critiques about this season and Rhaenyra herself, or do you think that I'm being too harsh? What's been your favorite moment this season? What about your least favorite moment? And who's your favorite character right now? Again, I'm so grateful for your time. Thanks for watching, and I hope to see you all in the next one. Until then, may the Force be with you always.